Hello and welcome to the January 18th, 2026 episode of Nick's News. I am your host Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we are paying for this new project of ours. Well, it's not new. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube channel. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like Industry Tap, Live Science, Positive.News, and GoodGoodGood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Good evening, everybody. I am already flubbing words. We're off to a fantastic start. I don't know what's going on. I may be ill right now. I've been tired all day, and it's just been kind of hard to get things going, so come on, there we go. Not even my hair wants to cooperate, so who knows? I kind of sound a little nasally, too. We'll carry on, though. Hello, everybody. It's so good to see everyone. All right, let's get into our news brew. So we're all guilty of heading to the fridge and pulling out a treat after dark. That doesn't make us a monster, though. What might make you a monster is not bringing any snacks back to bed to share. Maybe that's what happened to the guy on the can of Midsomer's Night Snack. Look at that guy. This is a 7% ABV Milk Stout from Abomination Brewing Company, and it comes packed with chocolate, marshmallow, graham cracker, and milk sugar. What a great snack. Look at this guy. He definitely did something wrong. Alright, because it is a can, we don't need the Battle Song bottle opener. We will, as it is a stout, enjoy it in our harpoon snifter. Blow the gain on the audio. Charlie Brown says, that's totally not terrifying. Becky asks, like a s'more beer. So it should be. The review... I can smell it from here. The reviews that I saw did tout it as having very s'more-like qualities. That's what I'm hoping for. Let's get into the theatrics of a 5-minute pour. It's dark, but not the darkest stout I've had. Pours a little thinner, too. It's not quite the motor oil that we're used to with some of the stouts that I have on this show. It's got great head on it. Ooh, I'm going to let that settle. Interesting. There's a lot of flavors going on in there. I wouldn't say stout from the first sip, but we'll find out what happens as we go on. Let's get into our shout-outs. So, today we're going to give a shout-out to Speek Geek Voice Acting. And yes, if you look at the description, I spelled it as it is spelled. In the world of voiceover, Anthony can be anyone, be it hero or villain, prince or pauper, shy guy or exuberant life of the party. Contact him if you need character voiceover, corporate voiceover, including IVR and voice on hold, or commercial voiceover. Anthony says, let's work together so we can give your project the voice that it deserves. To Anthony and Speek Geek Voice Acting, cheers. And we have included his links in the description below. Wow. There's definitely chocolate. It's like milk chocolate and baker's chocolate, which is like really dark chocolate. Very unsweetened chocolate. There's some graham cracker, and then there's a lot of campfire. There's a lot of like smoke. I'm going to try it again. Yeah, there's definitely something like campfire smoke coming through, which is interesting. Top off my glass here. A little bit of trub in the can, but that's okay. Ooh. It's smoking, said Becky. News quote: if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And that comes from Jack Kornfield, who was born in 1945, and they are an American psychologist, a writer, and a teacher in the Vipassana movement in American Theravada Buddhism. Hey, Yavi. And I really like that quote because so think about that. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. When we are compassionate people, we are compassionate for one another normally, but we also have to have self-love. You have to have a love of yourself, an understanding of yourself. And that can be difficult at times. You know, love is very difficult, especially for ourselves. And is often the most overlooked. You know, we don't think we need to. We do. When you are being compassionate, also be compassionate to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're the same person. You will grow and you will get better with time as you have experiences and you learn. But look at that person in the mirror and be compassionate for that person, just as much as you are compassionate for the people around you. So, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Thank you very much, Jack Kornfield. Becky in the chat said, self-love is hard, but not impossible. I agree. And Charlie Brown said, that is true. Thank you, Charlie Brown. Bug update. There was some excitement in the bug world. For a moment, I thought that Ripley, our tailless whip scorpion, had passed away. I hadn't seen her in a few days, so I went in to go look around and see what had happened, and I saw something lying on the moss behind her hide, and I thought it was her. I thought she had died. But when I turned the cork bark around, she was on it, and what I was looking at was a shed of her skin. So she has successfully molted. She is now making all of the creepy noises again, and she's huge. Like, if you remember back to the rehousing episode where we got to see her, and she, roughly could have fit in the palm of my hand, she is now longer than my hand when she stretches her legs out. And I'm not talking about those long antenniform legs she waves around. Those are even longer now. She is a monster. And on Tuesday, there will be some photos of her on the Instagram. So if you have arachnophobia, steer clear of the Nick's News Instagram on Tuesday. Daku, yours a big baby girl. She is. She is beautiful. She's a big baby girl. Producer Donna loves her. And she has been scaring the shit out of me all day. Like, any time I've been in here, she's been making noises back there. And it is horrible. Horrible. Little John is great. He's been very photogenic. He's very active. Little John is our brand new Emperor Scorpion who lives in this vivarium right here. If you see him crawling around, please post an emoji of a scorpion in the chat or just shout Little John. And Sue has been really good too. I gave him a tomato hornworm, a very big one, and he ate it all, but now he's waddling around a bit because he's a little fat and a little uncoordinated. And it's kind of funny, but he's happy and well fed. The Cuddle Puddle, my Madagascar hissing cockroaches are also doing well. Expect a picture of them in an Instagram post at some point in the coming weeks. So, all is really well in the bug world. It is funny, too, this whole time, like, while we were getting ready for the live stream, I keep looking over to Ripley's terrarium, and I keep catching sight of her, like, easing out, and then she ducks back in, and she's just creepy. She's just so creepy. I need to get a video of her walking around. It's like a crab on a wall. Like, ugh. All right. Yes, producer Donna said, Ripley was lurking in a corner and scared the crap out of Nick today while we were doing pre-show. So I was going to get some photos of her on her cork bark. So I, started going in. I reached in. And I started moving one of the other pieces of cork bark, and then I saw her move. because she, like, imagine my hand is here. She was right here in the corner of the tank waiting for me. And she just scuttled a little, and I freaked out because I did not expect her to be out and about. She is hungry. She's hunting. I am going to have to pick up some crickets for her because I'm out of crickets, so I'm going to have to grab her some tomorrow. All right, let's get into our broadcast. Oh, the One-Uppers says, I have made it. Had to finish my book chapter first. Well, thank you very much for joining us, the One-Uppers. All right, let's get into our good news. Our broadcast is broken up into 4 categories: science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice touchy-feely articles that we like to end on. So we're going to start off in category 1, science and technology, and we call this first article, Exhale to Vroom Vroom. I will copy and paste this into the chat if you all want to check it out. And again, if you want to check out the articles that we read on our broadcasts, they are all in the description of our video. So I'll copy and paste this. Charlie Brown had said she was waiting to give you a surprise. She succeeded. Scientists find a way to make CO2 a valuable fuel source. This was published to SciTech Daily on January 17th of 2026 by Yale University. Researchers from Yale and the University of Missouri report that catalysts made with manganese can efficiently convert carbon dioxide into formate. Manganese is a common and low-cost metal, and formate is widely studied as a possible way to store and release hydrogen for future fuel cell technologies. The findings were published in the journal Chem. The study was led by Yale postdoctoral researcher Justin Weddle and University of Missouri graduate research assistant Kyler Virtue, with senior contributions from Yale professor Nilay Hazari and Missouri professor Wesley Bernskoder. Hydrogen fuel cells, we know about them. We've been hearing about them for several years now. They generate electricity by converting the chemical energy stored in hydrogen, similar in concept to how a battery operates. Despite their promise, one of the biggest obstacles we've had with them to broader adoption is finding affordable and efficient methods to produce and store hydrogen at scale. Daku says, Handsome Dan strikes again. Carbon dioxide utilization is a priority right now. Wait, did I miss something? Handsome Dan. That was a loud click. Handsome Dan. What is Handsome Dan? That's funny, but I'm suddenly missing something. Oh, Handsome Dan is the Yale mascot. That's great. Carbon dioxide utilization is a priority right now, as we look for renewable chemical feedstocks to replace feedstocks derived from fossil fuel, said Hazari, the John Randolph Huffman Professor of Chemistry and Chair of Chemistry in Yale's Faculty of Arts and Sciences, or the FAS. Formic acid, which is the protonated form of formate, is already manufactured in large quantities for industrial use, such as food preservation, antibacterial treatments, and leather tanning. Scientists are also investigating it as a potential hydrogen source for fuel cells, provided it can be produced in a sustainable and practical way. Currently, industrial formate production involves the use of fossil fuels, and is thus not considered a sustainable option in the long term. A more planet-friendly approach, however, researchers say, is to create formate from the atmosphere, using carbon dioxide, essentially removing greenhouse gas and converting it into a useful product. But to do this, a catalyst is required, and therein lies the challenge for researchers. Many of the effective potential catalysts in development are based on precious metals, which are expensive, less abundant, and tend to be high in toxicity. On the other hand, metal catalysts are more abundant, more sustainable, and less expensive, and have tended to be less effective since they decompose rapidly, which limits their ability to convert carbon dioxide into formate. So, pros and cons. A lot of pros and cons. Hazari's team offered a new approach. The researchers were able to extend the catalytic lifetime of manganese-based catalysts to such a degree that their effectiveness outpaced most of the precious metal catalysts. The key innovation, they said, was to stabilize the catalysts by adding another donor atom with the ligand into the ligand design. Ligands are atoms or molecules that bond with a metal atom and influence reactivity. I'm excited to see the ligand design pay off in such a meaningful way, said Weddle. The researchers have also said their approach may be broadly applied to other catalytic transformations, beyond the conversion of carbon dioxide into formate. That's really cool. And you can reference this improving productivity and stability for CO2 hydrogenation by using pincer-ligated manganese complexes with hemilabel ligands, if you're interested in chemistry science like that. That is really neat, though, to everybody involved from Yale and the University of Missouri with finding new ways to create fuel for hydrogen fuel cells. Cheers. I'm being informed Handsome Dan is a bulldog for Yale. That's cool. And it looks like I have a typo I'm going to have to fix. I'm not sure when that typo popped up. I called this... Becky says, good job saying those hard words. We really need to do a mega cut of me flubbing words and names and just butchering things, or just the fight that I have with chemistry and certain mechanical terms as well. So, or biology. It's the chemistry and the biology names that get me. So we need to do a smash cut of all those. I call this next article an adorable solution for plastic pollution. I think it's written wrong in the description. I'm going to have to go back in and change that. But I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this article out. Uh-oh. Producer Donna says it's already in the works. Apparently the smash cut of me flubbing words is already in production. Why am I not surprised? Plastic-free soy sauce container biodegrades in 4 weeks. This was published to Popular Science on January 9th of 2026 by Mac DeGurin. Oh no. Producer Donna says Nick versus pumpkin beer, Nick versus the cricket, Nick versus words. Oh no. Producer Donna, is Nick versus words going to coincide with the Nictionary? Are we going to release the Nictionary at the same time? Daku Yoru asked us about the Nictionary. Which, if you didn't catch that episode or the VOD of that episode, the Nictionary is going to be a collection of me having screwed words up, which usually happens while we're recording TikToks. And we're going to release them to all of you to come up with what the words mean. I do several read-throughs of our TikToks when we're getting them ready, but even I have, I'm only human, so. Producer Donna says, you don't have enough words in the Nictionary yet, we only have a couple. Okay, so we're going to have to get more words. I'm going to have to screw more words up. But we got it going. Let's get into our article. Chances are, sushi aficionados have left a restaurant takeout in tow, and with a handful of adorable, yet environmentally problematic, fish-shaped soy sauce packets. These single-use plastic shoyutai drip bottles are as iconic as they are convenient, but their small size and disposability mean they often end up sliding down sinks and into drains. Eventually, these plastic faux fish make their way to landfills, or worse, the ocean. Once in the big blue, they slowly break down into microplastics that are then eaten by real fish. Ironically, those microplastic-filled fish may one day end up nestled between rice at a sushi bar. One Australian state has already passed legislation banning the plastic fish-shaped soy sauce packets, and others are reportedly considering following suit. But designers at Heliograph and Australian design studio Vert Design may have found a way to keep the fish packet alive, albeit in a more sustainable form. Their newly designed fish is called Holy Carp and is made entirely from biodegradable plant fibers. Allegedly, these fibers will completely break down in just 4 to 6 weeks, leaving no microplastics behind. The new product is also noticeably heftier than a typical plastic fish, with a liquid capacity of 12 milliliters, a deliberate choice informed by research showing that diners often use more than one packet per meal. Tend to use a ton of soy sauce. I'm pretty sure, folks use a ton of soy sauce. So giving them more maybe isn't the solution, but who knows. The soy fish are cute and convenient, but while they serve their purpose for just a few minutes, they can persist in the environment for hundreds of years, Heliograph wrote in a blog post. The company estimates somewhere between 8 to 12 billion plastic fish soy sauce packets may have been discarded since the product's introduction in the 1950s. They've become a symbol of a wasteful linear economy that's harnessing both people and the planet, Heliograph added. Heliograph and Vert Design say they gathered feedback from restaurants to arrive at a design that preserves some of the original fish's emotional nostalgia while prioritizing sustainability. The new container is made primarily from bagasse pulp, a byproduct of sugarcane production that has already been proven effective in other biodegradable packaging. When diners squeeze the fish's engorged belly, soy sauce trickles out through a small dropper near its head. The team says the container is made entirely without PFAS, synthetic compounds that can take thousands of years to degrade, often called forever chemicals. However, there are some drawbacks. Since the fish containers need to break down quickly, it can only hold sauce for about a maximum of 48 hours. This means restaurants will have to fill the containers individually themselves. Heliograph and Vert Design optimistically suggest that this could result in fresher sauce for customers. It also means more work for store employees. The plastic fish were reportedly first invented in Japan in 1954 by Teruo Watanabe, the founder of Japanese houseware company Asahi Sogio. The earliest versions were made out of ceramic and glass, but the push for mass production and the timely advent of inexpensive industrial-grade plastics led to the creation of the now iconic polyethylene container. As in so many other cases, the pursuit of scale prompted manufacturers to adopt single-use plastics. I don't know how many of these y'all have seen. I've only seen these little guys on very rare occasions here in the US, but I guess that they go like gangbusters everywhere else. So this is a huge bonus to make a biodegradable version of it, considering it is, at the end of the day, just a single-use plastic fish. Like water bottles and plastic grocery bags, these plastic fish are particularly problematic because of how long it takes for them to break down. That's partly why lawmakers in South Australia passed legislation in 2025 officially banning the fish-shaped containers. Defending the law, government officials noted that the packets were especially troublesome because their petite size caused them to be captured or missed entirely by recycling sorting machines, so they're even escaping the means that are normally there to catch them. Relying too broadly on recycling to reduce plastic waste has proven to be a losing bet. Even as recycling has become more common, the vast majority of single-use plastics are not recycled. A 2023 United Nations report found that nearly half, about 46% of all plastic waste, ended up in the landfill, while another 22% is mismanaged and became litter. And by litter, we mean the stuff that dots the sides of the roads or winds up in the ocean. Holy Carp provides an elegant, though admittedly imperfect solution to the problem. The reality is, plastics are popular for a reason, and sustainable alternatives will almost always struggle to match their convenience and functionality. But it's been that, and the more this sentence is screwed up. The more microplastic in the ocean, the real fish would certainly prefer the former. So I think what it meant to say is, if it's a toss-up between the plastic and the biodegradable, the former being more microplastic in the ocean, the real fish would certainly prefer the latter. I like the biodegradable option. To everybody at Holy Carp, working to make a biodegradable soy sauce container to replace the current plastic ones out there. Cheers. It's warming up a little. There's still a lot of smoke to the beer, but I am definitely tasting the marshmallow. It's a little sweet. There's a lot of heavy dark chocolate going on. All right, that's going to get us out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. And strap in, this is a bit of a doozy of an article. It's a big one, but it is a really good one. Especially given winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, North America, it can bring about bouts of depression. And those that are already afflicted by depression are even more so at risk of falling even deeper into depression's dark grasp. So this one's really cool. And I hope that you'll stick with us through this article. So we called it, "In Times of Depression, There is Hope." I will copy and paste this to the chat if you all want to check it out. Anytime we get a SciTech Daily article, they tend to be pretty long. Patients once paralyzed by life show lasting recovery with implanted nerve therapy. This was published to SciTech Daily on January 17th of 2026 by WashU Medicine. Around 20% of adults in the United States will experience major depression at some point in their lives. Many people feel better after trying a few treatments, but for as many as 1 in 3 patients, depression remains despite standard antidepressants or psychotherapy, a condition known as treatment-resistant depression. A new study suggests that an implanted device could offer meaningful, long-lasting relief for people with the most severe forms of this illness. The research was led by a team at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, which oversaw a large clinical trial conducted at multiple sites. The device worked by stimulating the vagus nerve, and investigators found improvements in depressive symptoms, quality of life, and other outcomes such as function. For most participants who were already benefiting at 1 year, those gains continued for at least 2 years. On average, patients had tried 13 unsuccessful treatments before enrolling, including electroconvulsive therapy and transcranial magnetic stimulation, and had lived with depression for 29 years. The results come from the ongoing RECOVER trial and were published in the International Journal of Neuropsychopharmacology. That is a huge word. Look at this thing. I didn't proofread this article, and I didn't skip a beat catching that one. Neuropsychopharmacology. See, I screwed it up there. Neuropsychopharmacology. Daku Yor just posted, "That nerve is also responsible for anxiety attacks and fight-flight feelings." I did check out that it said the vagus nerve, and we were looking it up, that it's like tied to the brain, to the heart, to the stomach. Like, it's a huge nerve with a lot of things that it's tied into and what it does. So that is really cool. Thank you for sharing that, Daku. "We believe the sample in this trial represents the sickest treatment-resistant depressed patient sample ever studied in a clinical trial," said lead author Charles Conway, MD, a professor of psychiatry and director of the WashU Medicine Treatment Resistant Mood Disorders Center. "There is a dire need to find effective treatments for these patients, who often have no other options. With this kind of chronic disabling illness, even a partial response to treatment is life-altering, and with vagus nerve stimulation, we're seeing that benefit is lasting." Daku Yor threw in, "Deep belly breathing helps stimulate it to help your brain embody that you're not actually in danger." Thank you for that. The RECOVER study was created to test whether the vagus nerve stimulation, or VNS, can improve results when added to a patient's existing care for treatment-resistant depression. In this approach, doctors implant a device beneath the skin of the chest. It delivers precisely timed electrical pulses to the left vagus nerve, which carries signals between the brain and many internal organs. The device used in the study, the VNS therapy system, is made by Livanova USA Incorporated, which also sponsored and funded the Recover trial. Researchers are collecting detailed information on changes in mood, daily functioning, and quality of life in people with markedly treatment-resistant depression. One aim is to provide data that the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or the CMS, can use when considering whether to cover the therapy. It should be covered, in my opinion. Cost is a major barrier for many patients right now. Because private insurers often follow CMS decisions, broader coverage could make the implant and surgery accessible to many more people, as it should be. Nearly 500 patients took part in the trial at 84 locations across the country. About 3/4 were so severely affected that they could not work. Every participant received an implanted VNS device, but during the first year, only half of the devices were activated to allow for a controlled comparison. Researchers tracked changes in depression severity, quality of life, and daily function. A response was considered meaningful if symptoms dropped by at least 30% compared to the baseline. A substantial response meant symptoms decreased by at least 50%. Conway, the principal investigator of Recover, emphasized that even a 30% reduction can significantly change life for someone with severe depression. The condition can leave people paralyzed by life, unable to manage everyday tasks, and facing a much higher risk of hospitalization or early death. Earlier reported outcomes from the blinded first year of the Recover trial demonstrated that people with activated devices spent significantly more time with improved depressive symptoms, quality of life, and daily function than did those with inactive devices, although the primary outcome measure, the Montgomery-Åsberg Depression Scale, which measures the severity of depressive episodes, did not significantly differ between the two groups. In this updated analysis of the ongoing trial, Conway and his colleagues examined only the patients who received active treatment during the first year of the Recover trial to determine whether improvements seen at 12 months would be sustained through 24 months. The team also assessed whether patients that showed no benefit at 12 months of activation might improve after more time with VNS. Of 214 patients receiving active treatment from the beginning of the trial, about 69% or 147 people had a meaningful response at 12 months in at least one of the metrics studied. Among those patients who experienced a meaningful benefit at 12 months, more than 80% maintained or increased benefits at 24 months across all measures of depression, quality of life, and function. And among patients who had a sustained response at 1 year, defined by 50% or greater, and among patients who had a substantial response at 1 year, defined as 50% or greater symptom reduction, 92% were typically still experiencing a benefit at the 2-year mark across all measures. What's more, nearly 1/3 of participants who had not responded after 1 year of treatment reported benefits at the end of the second year, suggesting the treatment might take more time to work in some people. Among those who experienced benefits at 1 year, relapse rates were consistently low, especially for the strongest responders. The researchers also found that more than 20% of treated participants, or 39 people, were in remission after 24 months, meaning their symptoms had improved to the point where they could function normally in daily life, a finding Conway said was particularly striking. We were shocked that 1 in 5 patients was effectively without depressive symptoms at the end of 2 years, he said. Seeing results like that for this complicated illness makes me optimistic about the future of this treatment. These results are highly atypical, as most studies of markedly treatment-resistant depression have very poor sustainability of benefit. Certainly not at 2 years. We're seeing people getting better and staying better. This was referenced in Durability of the Benefit of Vagus Nerve Stimulation in Markedly Treatment-Resistant Major Depression, a Recover Trial Report, and was posted to the International Journal of Neuropsychopharmacology. To everybody involved in the Recover trial, to all of the patients and to the doctors and the team from Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis for finding new ways to combat depression, especially treatment-resistant depression, or what do they call it again? Treatment-resistant depression. Cheers. And thank you all for sticking with us through that long article. That's going to get us out of health and medicine. We're going to move on to category 3, science and flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. Nico said that's a great article. Thank you, Nico. I thought it was too. Hey, Tim. Now, called this first article in Flora and Fauna, I like turtles. If you have not kept up on the recovery story of Rockalina, the box turtle that's been featured on Garden State Tortoise's media for the last several months, I advise you look up Rockalina's entire story. Because what we are going to present is the latest good news for Rockalina. I'll paste the article in the chat if y'all want to check it out. Rockalina the turtle meets member of her own species for the first time in 48 years. This was published to the CBC on December 16th of 2025 by Sheena Goodyear. Rockalina the turtle had a transformative year. When wildlife rescuers first laid eyes on her back in February of 2025, they weren't sure she'd last the night. After nearly 50 years living on a kitchen floor in New Jersey, the eastern box turtle had developed ingrown nails, several deformities, and dry, sloughing skin. She was too weak to even keep her eyes open. But 11 months later, she's thriving at a wildlife sanctuary, soaking up the sun and feasting on worms and strawberries. And now, for the first time since she was plucked from the wild in potentially 1977, she has a companion of her own species, a wee baby turtle named Pebble. They're doing good, Chris Leon, Rockalina's caretaker, told As It Happens host Neil Koxel. They're a lot of fun to watch. Leon is the founder of Garden State Tortoise, a New Jersey reptile breeding and rescue facility. He first met Rockalina nearly a year ago, when a woman reached out for help. Her husband's aunt and uncle had recently died, she said, and she was unsure what to do about the turtle who lived in their home. The creature, she said, had the run of the house, but resided primarily in the kitchen, where she believes it ate a diet of mostly cat food. She told Leon the couple's son had found the turtle outside in 1977 when he was a boy and took her home. He had disabilities that prevented him from caring for his new pet, so the responsibility fell to his parents. Now there was really nobody to take care of the turtle, Leon said. But eastern box turtles, he says, aren't meant to live in a house. They are natural forest dwellers who like tree cover, lots of humidity, and ponds to soak in. A linoleum kitchen floor couldn't be any further from what this animal needs, Leon said. The animal looked like it was deceased. It looked like a mummy. The hard kitchen floors, he said, caused the bones in Rockalina's fingers to grow upwards and backwards, he said. That caused the nails to grow in the complete opposite direction and curl over completely to the point where they were actually starting to grow back into her feet. Her beak was misshapen, her skin was pale and flaking off, and cat hair had become entangled around one of her legs, cutting off circulation. We thought the foot was going to have to be removed, Leon said. Once we got her into good shape, we learned that although the leg will always be disfigured, it doesn't have to be amputated, and she can actually use it to pivot on. Over the last 11 months, Garden State Tortoise has documented, now over the last 13 months, Garden State Tortoise has documented Rockalina's recovery on YouTube, where she's gained a lot of fans. Because she's doing so well, staff decided it was time to give her a friend. Eastern box turtles, Leon says, live in colonies, and it's important they socialize with their own kind. Enter Pebble, a brand new turtle hatched at the facility just for Rockalina. The duo, Leon says, seem to be hitting it off. In their supervised interactions so far, they seem curious about each other, sniffing each other and craning their necks to get a good stare. Curiosity is a good trigger to know that they're feeling good, Leon said. Leon urges people not to remove turtles from their natural habitats, but he says it's too late for Rockalina to go back to the forest, where she'd be unable to defend herself from predators. So the staff are doing their best to make her as happy as she can be for her remaining days, of which there could be many. Box turtles live for very long periods of time. She could go another 50 years, believe it or not. To Chris Leon and everybody at Garden State Tortoise for rescuing Rockalina, to her new little friend Pebble, and to Rockalina herself. Cheers. And again, that's Garden State Tortoise. Check out the story of Rockalina, especially their YouTube videos. It really is something else. This next one we called, I don't know if there's anything better than Frog Sauna. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. A biologist successfully saved these endangered frogs from a deadly disease by building them tiny frog saunas. This was published at goodgoodgood.co on January 14th of 2026 by Megan Cook. I almost said Cameron Baker, but this one was done by Megan Cook. In 2024, scientists finally pinpointed the deadly virus that has been infecting fungal genomes and killing countless frogs and toads for decades. But that discovery was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to curing chytridiomycosis. I think that's how it's pronounced. Chytridiomycosis, a disease that led to the extinction of 90 amphibian species entirely and infected 500 more. Like many herpetologists, Australian biologist Dr. Anthony Waddell was eager to join the fight in protecting frogs and toads from the deadly chytrid fungus. As a rising student at Macquarie University's Applied Biosciences in the Faculty of Science and Engineering, Waddell devised a unique way of protecting local frogs from the fungal disease. In the 25 years since chytridiomycosis was identified as a major cause of the global collapse of amphibian populations, our results are the first to provide a simple, inexpensive, and widely applicable strategy to buffer frogs against this disease, Waddell told The Lighthouse, Macquarie University's news journal. Doc Euro says, I believe that's the same fungus that causes green nails. Nasty little microbe. Thank you for that information. So he built them masonry bricks with frog-sized holes and prescribed them a spa treatment. The whole thing is like a mini med spa for frogs, Waddell said. In these simple little hot spots, frogs can go and heat up their bodies to a temperature that destroys the infections. As with many human diseases such as influenza, trichidiomycosis is seasonal, he explained. Winter is a particularly vulnerable time for the frogs, given there are few opportunities to heat themselves up. In addition to brick-and-mortar saunas, which naturally draw heat from the sun, Waddell also constructed small greenhouses out of PVC. By making hot spots available to frogs in the winter, we empower them to cure their infections, or not even get sick at all, he said. Waddell's central focus on conservation is the green and golden bell frog, an endangered species that has lost more than 90% of its native range since the disease was introduced into the region in 1978. They used to be very common across eastern Australia, he said. They lived in letterboxes and backyards and really adapted to human settlements before chytridiomycosis came and hammered the population. Fortunately, his frog saunas helped the endangered species turn a corner. Not only were they hot enough to elevate the frogs' body temperatures and help them clear infections, but frogs that recovered in the saunas became resistant to chytridiomycosis and remained resistant, even as temperatures dropped for the winter. Our results provide a simple, inexpensive, and widely applicable strategy to buffer frogs against chytridiomycosis in nature, Waddle and his peers wrote in their study, which was published in the scientific journal Nature. Which, if you don't read the scientific journal Nature, check it out. It may be full of science-y articles, but they're really good reads. Habitat protection alone cannot protect species that are affected by invasive diseases, but simple manipulations to microhabitat structure could spell the difference between the extinction and the persistence of endangered amphibians. Acknowledging that frog saunas alone wouldn't cut it, Waddle has also expanded his research to include immunization and synthetic biology. In addition to leading gene replacement trials, Waddle has spent the past years raising and vaccinating hundreds of green and golden bell frogs. Waddle told The Guardian that when they are released, it will be probably the largest input of frogs in the population in a decade. Last summer, Waddle was rewarded for his conservation efforts with the 2025 Future for Nature Award. With the prize money, Waddle opened 2 frog hospitals in Greater Sydney so that vulnerable frogs awaiting vaccination could stay there ahead of winter chytrid outbreaks. He's also delivering vaccinations across the east coast of Australia and working long hours in the lab to unravel the genetic mechanisms that could be key to providing permanent solutions to the challenge of chytrid. We need to future-proof our conservation efforts, and genetic resistance will be the key, he told Future for Nature. That is really cool. That is fantastic. To Australian biologist Dr. Anthony Waddle, who built little frog saunas and has been giving them little treatments and has been keeping them and taking care of them and helping the entire populations of green and gold bell frogs fight off this terrible disease. Cheers. Producer Donna said, I hope this goes worldwide. I know the problem is not isolated to Australia. I agree, Producer Donna. All right, that's going to get us out of flora and fauna. We are going to get into category 4, the wholesome notes. We have 2 articles here. This first one is going to be a little controversial. We usually do not try to do any political articles. We try to shy away from things like that, if just to maintain doing an unbiased product, or as best of one as we can. But this one really is something. It's a good article, it's a wholesome note, and it is a sometimes it takes a village article. So I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. For Minnesotans afraid to leave home during ICE crackdowns, this pizza joint delivers free food across the city. This was published at goodgoodgood.co on January 12th of 2026 by Cameron Baker. As the Trump administration's As the Trump administration's immigration and customs enforcement crackdowns ramp up across Minnesota, especially following a deadly shooting of a bystander named Renee Nicole Good during the prior week, locals are rallying to support their vulnerable community members. One such example is local pizza chain Rectangle Pizza. Fuck ICE, eat pizza, and we love you. Representatives of the pizza joint and nearby sex shop, The Smitten Kitten, started a video on Thursday. Here they announced they were teaming up for a community initiative. We at Rectangle at all locations for the rest of the weekend are going to donate 1 pizza for every single pizza sold to families and friends that are affected by the increased ICE presence in Minneapolis, one representative said. I agree. Nico says Rectangle and The Smitten Kitten are great names, and I agree. In the caption, they noted that they are set on volunteers who would deliver pizza and other goods to people unable to leave home, but added, we could really use some help raising funds to keep the momentum and keep people safe inside during these disturbing and uncertain times. Kiffin says, what a sentence. Daku says, sounds like the Pink Pony Club just because the Warhorse Fight Club. Alexander the Great, going to find that place and buy as much as I can. Again, that's the rectangle, WRECKTANGLE, or the Smitten Kitten. Take your pick. Rectangle leaders said they started with $2,000 in donations from family and friends and figured if they posted their Venmo information, they might be able to double that. The support exceeded their expectations. In addition to the collection of non-perishable foods and home essentials, 2 days later they announced that they had received over $83,000 in donations. Along with the donations, the local chain sold 2,291 pizzas between Thursday and Sunday of that week. We couldn't be more stunned or grateful, they shared on social media. During this time, they distributed 600 pizzas, non-perishables, and toiletries to vulnerable families, adding that we have been working only with volunteers we personally know and trust to ensure the safety of our community. But thousands more meals are being made and prepared for free delivery as quickly as possible. Rectangle co-owner Brianna Evans told Bring Me the News that nearly every local restaurant in their area has been negatively impacted by the presence of ice. We have staff, co-workers who are directly affected and scared to come to work, Evans said. It's not fair for our friends to be scared to provide for their families and make a living. We know how to make food. So, we said, let's just start making food. The company began donating their 13-inch frozen pizzas privately by connecting with their network of neighboring businesses and organizations. But then they realized the community could expand their efforts even wider. Trusted volunteers were sent off to deliver free pizzas and meal kits, and others came to the shop to help assemble the goods. I think that's a testament to our community, and that there's more good in the world than this horrible bad, and that they're making us go through, Evans said. After meeting an immediate need to distribute food, Rectangle owners are working to figure out how to best use the funds they raised to help the community. We are working hard with nonprofit organizations to make sure these funds do the most good. We have not yet touched a cent, they shared on social media. As soon as we have updates as to specifically where your kindness is going, outside of purchasing food and home products, we will keep you thoroughly updated. And on Sunday, to finish out the campaign, Rectangle encouraged supporters to spend their money with other local restaurants. For one day only, they accepted emails containing a photo of a receipt from any Minnesota restaurant, and an additional meal was donated on their behalf. A lot of our community wants to come back to work, and we need to make sure these restaurants can help support their staff, Evans said in a social media video. We need you to be there. As of Monday morning of last week, Rectangle shared on an Instagram story that they received 176 emailed receipts, which translates to 176 more meals for vulnerable community members. This week has spread so much love and friendship, the company added in an Instagram story, and we couldn't be more grateful. Man, to everybody involved at Rectangle Pizza and the Smitten Kitten and other businesses in Minneapolis that are standing up and are helping out the community, giving back and doing amazing things. Sometimes it takes a village. Cheers. All right, time for our last article of the night. This one is a fantastic, wholesome note as well, and we called this one Sing Like No One Is Listening. Alexander says, proud of my state. Very cool, Alexander. I will copy and paste this article into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Magic occurs. Tuneless choirs provide joyful outlets for the tone deaf. This was published in Nice News on January 13th of 2026 by Rebecca Brands. Sing like no one is listening is inspiring advice, but for those who can't carry a tune, it's often put into practice in spaces where, quite literally, no one is listening. And that's generally fine. Singing is good for you, whether or not another human hears. It's even better, though, when others are involved. That's why there's karaoke and stuff, but that's also why there's something like this. In addition to the science-backed physical and mental benefits that come with singing in general, communal singing specifically can increase feelings of connectedness and foster social bonds. So what are the tone deaf, those who either can't join a community choir or would feel guilty for throwing off the group if they did? What do? For decades, Nadine Cooper was among those frustrated folks. At age 11 or 12, she was asked by her music teacher to stop singing in class, as her contribution was spoiling it for everyone else. Shame on that teacher. As an adult, the UK resident yearned to reap the socio-emotional rewards of singing with others. But when invited to join an open-to-all group in Nottingham, England, she worried she'd again ruin the experience for her peers. Instead, Cooper came up with an idea for a new type of vocal ensemble. One that was not merely open to all, but that had an emphasis, right in the name, on no singing ability required. She called it the Tuneless Choir, and on January 14th of 2016, with the help of Bernie Braca, the choir leader who'd asked Cooper to join her traditional group, they held their first gathering. Today, there are over 30 tuneless choirs across England, and 2 new branches just launched on Canada's Vancouver Island, led by UK expat Sharon Marnell. Next month, a weekend retreat back across the pond is planned to celebrate the concept's 10-year anniversary. Revelries will include karaoke, themed workshops, group singing, and even a flash mob. Nico says the woods would be very silent if no birds sang except those who sang best. Quoted Henry Van Dyke. I really like that quote. Thank you, Nico. Many of the members avoided singing for decades because someone told them they were tone deaf, Marnell told the CBC. But joining in with Tuneless, that didn't matter. They sang their hearts out. They laughed endlessly. They formed real friendships. It was life-changing. Tuneless choir members don't have to actually be tone deaf. In fact, only a small percentage of the population can claim that designation. And some can even hit the right notes at the right time. That may explain why listening to the group isn't the jarring experience you might expect. All it takes is for a couple people to get the melody right for the overall sound to resemble your average audience sing-along at a concert, rather than nails on a chalkboard. Marnell explained, still, sounding good isn't the goal, or necessarily the result, and there is no pressure to improve. Someone once said that they hadn't heard that song sung in 19 different harmonies before, which was pretty incredible because there were only 12 of us in the room at the time, Cooper joked to NPR in 2020 of a post-performance review. The choirs are about joy, and that joy is spread to those who come to hear them sing. Yes, people do sometimes come to hear them sing. Though public performances aren't the standard, the group occasionally takes the stage at festivals and other events, where they'll often involve the crowd. Because we get the audience to join in, we're asked to come back again and again. Because who doesn't love a big old sing-along? Marnell shared with the Times columnist earlier this month. Members aren't given music to learn, just lyrics, and song choices are typically popular numbers, like top 40 hits or show tunes. We sing songs people already know, songs they would have heard on the radio, and sing along to in their car or in the shower, she said. Everything from ABBA to Led Zeppelin and musical theater to rock and roll and jazz. On the official website, those interested in starting their own tuneless choir can fill out a form to get the mini-franchising process started, and a choir locator shows existing groups around England. There's also an online meetup every other Tuesday called Virtually Tuneless that people can join from around the world. If you love music, if you sing in the shower, if you've been told you sound terrible, you're exactly who we want, Marnell enthused to the CBC. You don't need any musical ability at all. The Tuneless Choir tagline, singing like no one is listening. And when that happens, one member told NPR, magic occurs. To everybody involved with the Tuneless Choir across the world, for basically just that, singing like no one is listening, and just enjoying the benefits of singing with others. Cheers. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. 7 amazing good news articles, ending with singing like no one is listening. Thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nix News YouTube page. Again, we're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be on January 25th of 2026. We encourage participation, so by all means, if you feel inclined, you can message us to post suggestions for news brews, shoutouts, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes of our program. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram, or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are all in the description of this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our content across Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok to get good news and joy out into the algorithms so that we can continue to grow Nix News and good news, basically. Please, no SEO improvements or advertisements. We're not interested. All of you continue to drive Nix News up and up. All of our numbers continue to grow, and I can't thank you all enough for everything you do. So, as always, thank you again. Have a great night. I love you all. Have a great night. And I will play us out.